We're talking about periods. Women are in pain, we're tired, we're overwhelmed, and dealing with symptoms that we've all been told are normal, or maybe it's just stress.
Having extreme breast tenderness, like not being able to move, full body aches, full body fatigue, the cramps that make you feel like you literally cannot move or you're on the floor. And I've been there, and it is so not normal. Every woman has that horror story of that OBGYN who's just like, well, you're being dramatic.
Oh my God.
This is just how it is. It's part of being a woman. All women's pain is not taken seriously, not to mention women of color. It is so much worse.
Why is women's pain often dismissed by doctors, by family, and ourselves?
Oh my God, is God punishing me? That is a literal narrative that we have.
Yeah.
That Eve is like cursed. All of women are cursed and that we deserve to suffer. Do not gaslight yourself. You're not crazy.
And you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Your body isn't broken or betraying you. She's communicating. And when you learn how to listen, everything changes.
Chocolate's super high in magnesium, which is that calming mineral that you need more of when your stress resilience is lower during the luteal phase, when you're not sleeping as well during the luteal phase. Your body is so intelligent that you up here think that you're craving chocolate. And yes, absolutely eat it. But deeper, your body is saying, hey, I need magnesium. Let's translate this into something she's going to understand.
So chocolate is essentially medicine.
Absolutely. 100%.
What are maybe a couple other daily habits that women can start this week to make their next period less painful and way more manageable?
Any choice you make that is going to impact one of those buckets and help you is going to help you ultimately with painful periods. First things first.
All right, y'all, welcome back to Woman to Woman. Today, I'm super excited about this conversation. It's a topic that isn't discussed enough in spite of the fact that so many of us are suffering. We're talking about periods. Woman to Woman is all about giving women the language they've been feeling in their bodies but never had the words for. Women are in pain, we're tired, we're overwhelmed, and dealing with symptoms that we've all been told are normal, or maybe it's just stress. Maybe it's just stress, even though we know something is off. So the goal today is to help our community finally understand why our cycles feel chaotic, the pain, the mood swings, the fatigue, and the I don't feel like myself days. We're going to offer some science-backed, natural, accessible tools to help everyone here feel more sane, balanced, and in control of our bodies so we can get back to living our best lives, right? So we have an expert in the building. How are you today?
I am good.
Yeah?
I'm excited to be out in Fort Worth. It's awesome.
What phase of your cycle? I know we're jumping right in. Getting really personal. What phase of your cycle are you in right now?
Oh no, this is perfect. Because I'm actually ovulating right now. So this is like the ultimate time to do a podcast recording.
Okay, that's why you're glowing.
The energy is good.
Yeah,
Yes.
I see the glow. I see the glow, girl. So let me do a not so quick intro because I want to make sure that you guys appreciate the weight of this conversation and the value that our guest today is bringing us. So today's guest is someone so many women don't even realize they've been searching for. Catie Perkins is a women's health practitioner and the founder of Chrysalis Wellness. But more than that, she's someone who found this work because her own body demanded answers that no one was giving her. After surviving thyroid cancer and living through exhaustion, mood changes, and hormonal chaos that followed, Catie learned firsthand what so many women experience, being told everything looks normal while feeling anything but normal inside your body. Instead of accepting that, she went looking for a root cause. She studied functional and holistic approaches to hormone health, rebuilt her own body from the inside out, and now helps women who've been dismissed, overlooked, or told to just deal with it finally understand what their bodies are trying to say. Catie specializes in helping women navigate painful periods, PMS, PMDD, hormone imbalance, and the quiet suffering that comes with feeling out of sync with your own body. She brings science, compassion, and lived experience into every conversation without shame, fear, or judgment. Catie, we're so grateful that you're here with us, and I'm really excited for this conversation. Welcome to Woman to Woman.
Thank you so much for having me. And you make me sound so wonderful. So I'm glad that's been portrayed. But I'm really excited to dive in and talk about this.
Can you tell me why you dove into the science of periods? What is it about your own experience? And we're going to get more into that. What is it about your own experience that turned you in the direction of trying to just figure out what is going on with the monthly cycle that all of us are just told to just shut up and suffer.
Yeah. And that is just part of being a woman. And that is so much, we talk about how a lot of us practitioners kind of got into this work, and it's from our own lived experience. And I'm no exception. So I had my whole thyroid journey, which I know we'll talk about. But even before that, in high school, I did the standard checklist of painful periods. Okay, we're going to go on birth control. Okay, this birth control isn't working. We're just going to up your dosage. I was 14 when I first went on. And so I had my period for maybe a year and a half.
And was this the only reason you were on birth control, or were you actually sexually active?
No, I was a private Christian, small town, all that stuff. So that was not an option. And that's really shaped my view of this now, is like using birth control, for its intended purpose. Absolutely, we should be doing. But when it's just handed to you because, congratulations, you're now 14, 15, this is just something you get as a gift because you're entering womanhood, and we need to handle it,
So
manage it.
Crazy to me.
Yes, it's insane. And so I went through several different dosages of hormonal birth controls, and I had gotten to the point where I was bleeding for several months straight. I was anemic. I was dealing with all these other issues. And then my OBGYN put me on testosterone to try to balance me out, which lasted a week because I was so ragey and so, I don't use this word lightly, crazy, that feeling of not feeling sane. And feeling so out of control.
Well, they're pumping you full of all of these hormones that your body, like, you're already going through so much change at this period of time in your life. And the fact that they're like, well, here's something, just a little Band-Aid for the pain part. We're not going to get to the underlying issue. And now we're going to give you a bunch of testosterone. Like, that is, how old were you when you were given the testosterone?
Probably 16 or 17. And, we say, yes, this is going to fix it or solve it. Not to mention it's going to cause 20 other problems. And so looking back on that, and then to top it all off at 18, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And I do wonder, what level of that disruption could have contributed to that becoming more of a problem.
Yeah.
And so that was just kind of one of the first dominoes that fell for me. But it was so normal because all my other friends were on hormonal birth control, and it just wasn't something that was questioned. And now I have friends, I have clients, everyone who's been on it for 10 years now without ever stopping.
Are they, because my friends that did end up getting on, my mom's from Africa and she's super Christian. So nothing, you're just going to grin and bear it and you'll figure it out, but we're not going to give you that. And the fact that you had this girlfriend group of Christian girls and nobody's doing anything, but everyone is on this product that was created for sexual activity.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. And the fact that no one questioned it.
No, that it was just so normalized. And another lens and layer of this. So yes, there's the very conservative Christian side of you're just going to be a good girl. And then also growing up, a lot of my friends were in the conventional medical society, like all their parents were doctors or dentists or all in that very Western medicine mind. And so it was just, we're going to give this to you to fix you, essentially, because you have to continue to perform. And I know we're going to talk about, how normalized women's pain is and how we're just supposed to grin and bear it and be productive. And you take these things to fix you so that you are more available for society and that you're not inconvenient and that we're not asking questions. And so that's where a lot of my spunk and my fire has come from, of this people-pleasing good girl archetype of never having a problem. And you just have to internalize all of it.
I've never even thought about that aspect, that the birth control is a kind of shut up and
it's
stop
a control.
Complaining.
It is a control.
It's a control. Like, what's happening in your body, we know there's something wrong, but this will at least get you to just shut up about it so we don't have to deal with it. Ooh.
Yeah. We're starting hard.
We are. That's the whole point. And I love the fact that we're talking about a time when we grew up, and that was like when the internet was just it was still like beep, 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 beep.
Yes.
There was the dial-up.
Yeah.
So people weren't used to having information at their fingertips. If you were told something or taught something, it was from a respected authority figure, maybe a teacher or a doctor, or maybe your mom, if she was even open about talking about this stuff with you. And so you just took it and had to just accept that it's as fact. So I love the fact that we have the internet now and a platform where we can have these conversations and find our own answers. So let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. First question. What is actually normal during a period, and what are the signs your body's raising a red flag?
Yes. And this is such a good starting point because I know in the holistic health world, a lot of times we get so granular and like 25 steps ahead, and we can get almost like biohacky and like, oh, this single individual genetic whatever. Okay. Backing it all the way up.
Yes.
And saying what is actually baseline and what is conditioned baseline. And so a healthy normal period, which I am very proud of myself to finally have after all of these years, is 3 to 7 days. It is bright to dark red blood, so kind of that vibrant look. It's not super dark brown. It's not really heavy clotting. Obviously, there's going to be some small, dime-sized clots because that skin, that uterine lining has to come out. But it's not debilitating cramps. It is not this raging PMS, PMDD feeling like you are absolutely out of control and like you can't participate in life. That sense of it being so debilitating and life-canceling, life-altering instead of, just a part of your cycle. It's supposed to be a part. It's not supposed to rule your whole life and ruin your life, essentially, even though we normalize that. And I know we're going to continue to talk about that. But when things are, showing red flags, that's when we're getting those really big clots. That's when you are having those, PMDD to the point of suicidal ideation, having extreme breast tenderness, like not being able to move, full body aches, full body fatigue, the cramps that make you feel like you literally cannot move or you're on the floor. And I've been there, and it is so not normal. You should have a level of mild cramping of, yes, my muscle is going to contract to shed this uterine lining. That's it. It should not be this complete pause on your life for 7 days. And you shouldn't feel like a crazy person. You should not have to feel that way. And so that is when we take it all the way to baseline. That's where we're starting. It really, yes, it's uncomfortable because we're not comfortable with blood in society. We're not comfortable with women, but we could do a whole nother podcast. But it should not be this absolutely life-altering thing.
So if it's disrupting your life,
yeah,
if you can't just schedule a bunch of things on a calendar and actually carry them out because this 1 week or longer is interrupting everything, that is a red flag that you might be ignoring.
Absolutely.
And then also I feel like I'm literally losing my mind. Like this might cost me my relationships. I need to just disappear for a couple weeks because that PMDD, it's raging and I turn into this other version of myself that I don't even know. All of those things are your body asking you to pay closer attention to it. So why do so many women think extreme pain, mood swings, clots, and exhaustion are normal when they're symptoms of something deeper?
I love this question because I'm just like, I'm ready. Because it's socialization. Oh my gosh. It is every single part of our society, whether that is, your mom, or because I had a very kind of, still have, but very kind of sarcastic, very practical mom. And so it's just like, well, this is the way it is. Or you have your girlfriends and you all bond over like, oh my God, I feel like shit. Like sorry, can we curse on this?
Yes, we can.
Okay. But like, yeah, I just feel awful all the time. And it's like, oh, me too, girlfriend. And you almost bond over that. And so in bonding over it, you normalize it. And if you ever say, oh, I really don't feel that way, it's like, oh, you're the unicorn, like, shut up. That's annoying. It's like rubbing it in your face instead of saying it could be better. And then the entire, most of the interactions we have with conventional medical doctors, with OBGYNs, it is getting better. And I always want to say that, in the holistic world, we tend to be just as dogmatic, against Western medicine. So I always want to have that nuance. But for the most part, every woman has that horror story of that OBGYN who's just like, well, you're being dramatic.
Oh my God.
This is just how it is. It's part of being a woman.
Yeah.
All of these platitudes that we're handed, not to mention, all women's pain is not taken seriously, not to mention women of color. It is so much worse.
Yeah.
And so that whole society and the socialization around it, of course, we're going to think it's normal because we are rewarded for our productivity. We are rewarded for being strong. And we get back to that people pleasing, that not inconveniencing anyone. You get societal reward from that. You don't get the reward because we don't live in a hyper compassionate matriarchy, whatever. We don't live in that world where you're honored for existing in a female body.
Yeah.
It's like a detriment to you.
Yeah.
And that you're broken or you're less than.
So if pain is a signal, what is the body trying to communicate when a woman has debilitating cramps or heavy bleeding every month?
And I love that we phrase it this way because pain is not a failing and it's not a given. Pain is information.
Yeah.
Pain is that dialogue we have with our body. And so there are multiple things that can be going on. Obviously, working with a provider, understanding what's going on specifically for you. But the main categories when I see super painful periods and all these hormonal imbalances, they are rooted in a mix of your stress, which I know we hate to say. It's why I literally name my podcast It's Just Stress, because we don't take it seriously. So that stress and adrenal overdrive piece, that nervous system piece, all of that is in one bucket. And then we have the nutrition and gut component. Because if we are under eating, if we are feeling, okay, I feel bloated, I feel gross, I'm holding on to fluid, I need to lose weight, so I'm going to restrict my calories even more, that is setting up those dominoes for your body not to have what it needs to bring itself back into balance, to create those hormones. And so it creates this vicious cycle of you're feeling these symptoms, that bloating or whatever, and you're not giving your body what it needs. You are instead taking away more of what is so essential. So we have that stress, we have that gut component, the nutrition, and then just overall inflammation is also a big piece, and emotional, spiritual piece. That is its own thing. And we'll try to stay more on the physiological side.
We can go there.
Yeah.
So a lot of us were put on birth control as teenagers for pain or irregular cycles. Why is that considered a fix when it's really just a bandage?
Because we talk about numbers, in conventional medical field, providers are seeing so many patients, and it is such a numbers game. Because, they are beholden to insurance companies. They're beholden to getting those numbers up for their practice, all of that. They don't have the time. So even if you do see a genuinely caring provider who's going to advocate for you, they are under such constraint. And so birth control is the easiest way out. And oftentimes doctors aren't always educated as much as they should be on the downstream effects of birth control from a much wider standpoint of, okay, it's going to mess with your nervous system. It's going to mess with your gut. It's going to mess with the hormones by suppressing ovulation. And that inherently suppressing ovulation is an issue, not just for fertility. It's an issue for being a woman of reproductive age. And so when you don't have that and then you don't have the informed consent, you're not having the time to teach patients about that. You're just saying, okay, this will fix you, basically. And it's so oversimplified. And up until very recently, and it still goes on now, you'll see someone with a platform, and anytime anyone would raise any question about birth control, it's almost like they treat it how they treated anyone questioning the COVID shots, which we've now learned they didn't have all the research they said they had in place. And people are dealing with long-term implications because they trusted all of those authority figures. It felt like if you questioned it, you would be like put into this category of like anti-vaxxer or just this conspiracy theorist, when it's like, but we're talking about my hormones and we're talking about girls that are in this developmental stage, and you're interfering with that natural process. And thinking that you can take any medication, but particularly hormonal birth control, at such a pivotal point in your hormonal development and then take it without stopping for 10 years. And then a lot of times people are told, well, when you're ready to have a baby, just come off it.
The girls are struggling.
Yeah. And that nothing's going to happen in the meantime. And that, we talk about the COVID side of things, but then also on the flip side, being a practitioner in this space, I have peers who are like, there is never a use case for hormonal birth control. It's always so bad. And it's like, no, we can't be just as dogmatic because there's the political implications. There's the body sovereignty side of things. And so really, like I said, having that access to the internet and the platforms that we have now, I love that we have that because we can have these really nuanced conversations of, okay, if you are only on hormonal birth control to alleviate period pain, we need to look at that. And so having the proper context, I think, is so important.
I agree. So research shows hormonal birth control can increase depression for some. And I did a story a while back, and I think the study, I wish I would have written this down, but the study was finding that the rates of depression in young girls and women were increasing at a dangerous pace.
Yeah.
I wonder if this just being normalized as the go-to, knowing that studies show it can increase depression, is contributing to that.
Yeah. And I think you're right on that. Again, I don't have the study pulled up either, but we know that certain birth controls can really interact with several hormones in your brain. They can interact with serotonin, which is your mood stabilizing. They can interact with GABA. They can interact in your overall stress resilience. And so you take that and you layer that in with where we're at as young women and even teenagers in our modern society and how much more stressful it has gotten since, even the 90s.
Oh my gosh.
And the level of stress. And then you're also cutting down our ability to modulate our mood and to handle stress. And so it creates this really tough situation for a lot of us. But I think that just assuming that there's no collateral damage, to the point where it's almost a meme in the holistic world of like, okay, the checklist, you go on hormonal birth control and then you're handed an antidepressant and then you're handed something for your digestion.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I think it was trending. Like a creator made it last year and I was looking at it, I was like, you are so right.
Sounds about right.
You're
Checks
so right.
out.
And everyone in the comments was like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly. Yeah. And like 2 years later, like clockwork, you're just handed the next thing. And that it's almost a formula, and not to say that it's like done with malintent, but
a lot
that
of stuff is though.
That's the standard formula of, instead of saying, okay, where's all of this coming from? Instead of going backwards, we're just adding another patch and adding another medication instead of saying, okay, what was going on before? Not even just what was caused by hormonal birth control, but even before that. Why were your periods so painful? Why were you so stressed? Why were your moods all over the place and your inflammation was sky high and whatever else? What was going on all the way back there? And if we address farther upstream, you don't have to keep adding those patches.
So what would you like women to know, especially moms that are in the position of deciding, should I put my daughter on birth control because they're suffering, they are in pain. And as women, at least we understand your pain is real and I've been there, and they want that pain to stop. What do you want them to understand about the difference between managing symptoms versus actually getting to the root cause?
And I love that you brought up the moms particularly, because as our generation is getting to that point, we want to be very mindful and protect our daughters. And I would say, okay, specifically for period pain. So not talking about sexual activity. That's a whole different thing. Specifically for period pain, really teach your daughter how to advocate for herself and understand her body. And so learning, what's going on, instead of just saying, oh, I have period pain, saying, okay, how much caffeine are you drinking? How much inflammation are we taking on? What does the diet look like? What does your social environment look like? What are all of these pieces that are contributing, instead of rushing to fix it? And a lot of times when we talk about the difference between symptoms and causes, I like to use something like a sandwich approach with clients of saying, okay, I'm not going to make you suffer while we address these foundations, because they are more slow moving and your body does take time to heal. And if you've been living, out of alignment in all of these things that are causing inflammation and pain and whatever and imbalance, it takes time to rectify that. In the meantime, what can we do for symptom management and kind of sandwich the issue in between? So we have the foundations coming up and we have, that acute management on top. And so there are things other than hormonal birth control that we can use to manage in the meantime.
And so what would you say to one of these moms, again, that are deciding to put their daughters on it? Is it actually solving the problem, or is it masking the problem and allowing stuff to just keep on brewing in the background unaddressed?
Yeah, it's not solving the problem. It's solving the problem in the sense of it's giving you some relief from the immediate issue, but you're trading that for issues down the line, because it's not actually fixing whatever the imbalance is. It's suppressing your ovulation, and it's trying to suppress your entire hormonal, like your natural cycle. And that's why you're not having a period. That's why the hormonal birth control works the way it does. But when you're suppressing ovulation, it's called the fifth vital sign. A lot of times there's actually a book by that name, which I would recommend to listeners because it's a wonderful intro into how to track your cycle, all the things you need to understand. But when we think that just because you can't see the symptoms anymore, the problem has gone away, I think that's very short-sighted. And so obviously some of us don't have the knowledge, the skills, the access to a practitioner, whatever. And so you think hormonal birth control is the best option. But if you're really looking to protect your daughter long-term, I would look into, even to go as far as saying, okay, if you want to go on birth control for a year just to get some relief while you're finding a better way, sure. Like have that no shame approach. Do what you got to do. Because I could not imagine, as someone who does not have a daughter yet, if she came to me in so much pain and like thinking back to the way I came to my mom, of course I would put her on something that would help. But then we need to dig deeper.
You mind me asking a little bit more about your personal period journey?
Yeah, of course.
What were you taught about your cycle before it started or when it finally started?
I think, that American Girl book, the Intro to My Body or whatever it is, that was so niche early 2000s. That I had. My mom didn't teach me a lot. I mean, I was prepared, in that year leading up to getting a period. You would go to school with your little emergency kit. You had your pad, whatever else. And I just remember when it happened, I was like, okay, fine. It didn't even clock as an entrance to womanhood or anything. And then it very quickly became something that was a pain point. And so having almost a hostile reaction to it, to something that is literally a divine feminine thing that I have so reclaimed in the past years. But at the very beginning, it was just painful. It's awkward. And no one is talking about it.
Yeah.
And God forbid you have blood on your jeans. It was very much, we talked about that kind of control and not being inconvenient to anyone. And it was just what's happening?
Yeah.
And it's just something I have to handle on my own. And even you can tell in my body language, it makes you feel small.
Yeah.
It makes you feel
I
very
see you shrinking
small
while you're talking about it.
and isolated. And just keep it under wraps, keep it under control, handle it. And if you're in pain too bad, pop an aspirin. That was what I was taught.
Or take some birth control.
Oh, yeah, or both. You can do whatever you want.
I will say personally, I wasn't taught anything about it. It was just when it happened, I was like, Mom, something's happening. She was like, there's a pad.
Yeah.
Here's how you put it on. And that was the end of the conversation. She really wasn't a communicator when it came to that stuff. And I was one of the lucky ones that didn't understand why my friends were in so much pain. I would have friends that would just not be in school for a week out of every single month. And if she tried to show up, one in particular, she would have to run to water fountains to throw up just randomly. And I didn't understand it until I got an IUD. Within a month, my body was, I guess it was the tissue was growing into it and I had to have it taken out.
Oh my gosh.
The most painful, putting it in, horrible, having it yanked out because that's how it's yanked out. That's just what it is.
Unmedicated, of course.
And the woman doctor was like, if you're going to be so loud, we can just end this right now. I'm like, all right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's what? But that was my entry into the most horrific periods.
Yeah.
I love having conversations about this because I didn't get to have any conversations before I found myself in a place where it was why is God punishing me?
Yeah.
What did I do? Because this can't be life. To the point where I was walking with a cane when I was on my cycle because I was in so much pain and going to the emergency room did nothing. There were no answers. Got a colposcopy where they snip it. That wasn't anything. And so natural medicine, that's what started my journey into natural medicine and me starting my company. And it's partly why I'm so excited that you made time to have this conversation with us here. If you are one of those girls that has to call out from work when your period comes because the pain is that bad, I see you. I was you. My company, Skinny Hippie Wellness, was born because my cycles were atrocious. I was tired of being told it was normal. I was tired of suffering quietly. So I started searching for natural solutions that actually supported women. Our yoni melts, life-changing. I promise if you find yourself curled up in the fetal position during your cycle, just waiting for the crippling pain to pass, pop a yoni melt in, and within 5 minutes, the cramps are gone and you have your day back. And I'm so confident these will work for you. that these are backed by a money-back guarantee. So if you try these and they don't change your period life, just shoot us an email and we will send you a refund. That's how confident I am in this product. We've also got our infused body butters with 1,500 milligrams of CBD that hits those aches and pains heavy. We've got Feel Good gummies, Feel Good flour, real options, and we're proud to be one of the top rated wellness stores for women in Texas with over 2,000 five-star reviews. We ship nationwide, and if you use code podcast on skinnyhippie.co at checkout, you'll get $5 off your first order. You can also take a quick screenshot and tap the QR code to unlock this discount. Why is women's pain often dismissed by doctors, by family, and ourselves? We talked about how that's just women's role in society to just kind of pipe down and keep the system going without inserting yourself too much.
No, and it's so interesting. I just to harp on that for a second, because this just came up when you said, oh my God, is God punishing me? That is a literal narrative that we have.
Yeah.
That Eve is like cursed. All of women are cursed, and that our pain is somehow our fault. Mm-hmm. And I cannot not talk about that and not address that, because it's funny what comes up when we're just kind of talking and the things that just come out, and that almost that we deserve it and that we deserve to suffer, and that we're here to be, in service to everyone but ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to tag on that for a minute, because we're reclaiming a lot of that, and we're unpacking that.
We have to. Yeah. So if a woman does feel off half the month, anxious, overwhelmed, angry, or not herself, how does she know whether it's hormonal imbalance or something else?
Sure. And like we're going to talk about when we talk about the foundations of our hormones, your hormones themselves are not a root cause. There's always a driving factor behind them. And so it's very hard to say, this is just because of your hormones. It's often because you also have gut issues. You probably don't have great liver detox pathway clearance, so your estrogen may be recirculating and unable to leave. Or if you have a gut dysbiosis where you're not having the necessary things in your gut to break down that estrogen and package it and remove it, it's recirculating and causing issues. That chronic stress, that adrenal piece that's burning through minerals, so you're low in things like magnesium. All of these pieces play into, okay, you're probably not going to feel like yourself half the month, because when we talk about what happens with your hormones, with PMS, with PMDD, with the whole I don't feel like a real person for 2 weeks, every other 2 weeks basically.
Yeah.
We are talking about your progesterone is supposed to be rising during that luteal phase. So during the second half of your cycle, you're supposed to have lowered estrogen, heightened progesterone. Progesterone is that calm, chill, kind of cozy hormone, but it is also incredibly finicky, because when we're very stressed and when our cortisol goes super high, it is actually stealing the building blocks needed for progesterone. So it's called the pregnenolone steal, which is incredibly nerdy. But basically what it means is when you're super stressed, your body cannot produce enough progesterone. And so that's why your luteal phase basically sucks, because you don't have that calm, chill hormone. Because when you think about your PMS and you think about the luteal phase, the dreaded luteal phase, it feels like rage and uncomfortable in my body, and I feel puffy and bloated and blah.
Yeah, and he's chewing so loud.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the calm, chill hormone.
No,
like
he wasn't
where
chewing
is
that loud last week.
Exactly. And now I'm going to yell at him. And we think about that and saying, okay, if you don't have enough minerals to help your nervous system function well, to have your adrenal response being adequate, and then you have this hyperproduction of cortisol, and then you also aren't getting liver detox clearance, you aren't getting gut clearance, all of these pieces can play together. Mm-hmm. And then you're also saying, oh my God, I feel fat, I'm not going to eat today, and I'm going to go hit the gym.
So guilty.
Yeah. Oh, same. Oh my
so
gosh.
Guilty.
We can talk about that on my thyroid journey, because I was gaining weight no matter what. And so you just create this vicious cycle that's so common, particularly in women, of, I don't like my body, I want to shrink my body, I want to feel different, whatever. And instead of giving your body what it needs, if your body's keeping on weight, like that's an indicator that your body is in starvation mode, it's struggling.
Right.
Instead of giving you what it needs, you're restricting even more. How do we think that's going to solve the problem?
And you don't even realize that now you're just further contributing to the problem, and it's compounding.
Yeah. And I don't say all of these pieces to be so overwhelming, and I don't want to paralyze people with like, how am I ever going to fix all of this? Because my goal is not to say you're broken beyond repair or whatever. That is not what's happening. What I'm saying is your body is so incredibly complex, and it has been fighting for you and showing up for you for so long, even though you have been asking too much of it. You haven't been giving it what it needs. You've been actively hostile to it and saying, I hate my body. And she's still showing up for you.
Yeah.
And all of these different pieces have tried to bend themselves and contort themselves to keep up. And now it's finally showing up as a hormone disruption, as painful periods, as whatever. That's so far down the line.
It's like the bow is finally breaking.
Exactly.
I think one thing that really helped me when I was finally taking back control of my health was no longer looking at my body as just this part of me, but more like this thing that I'm in partnership with.
Yes.
And so instead of trying to starve myself skinny, it's like, if my body needs nutrients, then I'm going to give her nutrients. If she needs to move so that I can feel more me, like that's the partnership that me and my body are in now, as opposed to being like, come on, girl.
Yes.
You know?
And I think it's such a big shift from treating our body like a computer.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember my mother actually said this to me, because I am one to burn the candle at every single end, 5 ways to Sunday. All the time with a blowtorch. And she was like, you can't just like order a new part. And this was actually really funny because it was right before I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
No.
So she was prophetic on that one. But that I had this view of like, I'm just going to run my body and run my body and run my body. Because if my brain can run that fast,
right,
I want the rest of me to run that fast. And instead shifting away from viewing our body as a tool, as a machine, towards viewing her as an animal, let alone a spirit.
Yeah.
But an animal, how do you think an animal is going to react? If you're starving her, she's probably going to be grumpy. She's going to bite
fight
you.
Back. Yeah, she's going to fight back.
And that's okay. So learning, like you said, to work in relationship with your biology, to bring your spirituality back on board, all of these pieces, instead of just running it harder and harder and harder. Yeah.
So what would you say to the woman or girl that's watching this, that's thinking, this can't be normal, but nobody listens to me? Where should she start?
Well, the fact that you're listening to this is a wonderful start. And I'm so glad that they have access to a platform like yours or a platform like mine to find like-minded people. And again, this, not to always praise the internet, but it has that wonderful effect of there are more people on this planet than the 5 people around me in person. And so even if my mom doesn't get it, even if my OBGYN doesn't get it, even if my girlfriends don't get it, I can connect with people and learn through the internet, through community, whatever. Obviously, I would love to have it be in person, but just knowing that you're not crazy. And I think that has been such a validating experience for you and me as we've gone through our natural health journeys of saying, okay, there are other people out here who have experienced similar things. And I will tell my clients and friends sometimes very sarcastically that you're not special. And you're so special and unique and wonderful spiritually. The problem you're going through is not unique, which means there's a solution.
Yeah.
You are not the only person to have ever experienced this,
You don't
even if
have
it
to
feels
suffer.
like it.
Yeah, you
Yes.
don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
So we've got a good starting place. Let's dive into like the details. What are the most overlooked causes of PMS, PMDD, and other period-related symptoms that women often mistake for this is just how I am and what my cross to bear?
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest, if we want to put an umbrella over this, it's the stress and what stressors we're experiencing. So whether that is as granular as saying, okay, on the liver and detox side, if I am bathing in Bath and Body Works and all of these super processed, endocrine disrupting chemicals, so I'm overloading on toxins, and I'm also possibly taking medications and eating processed foods and all of these other things that are filling up my toxin bucket, essentially. And then also I don't know how to or have not optimized my liver and supported her to detox. We have this overflowing bucket of toxins. So that is one issue.
So you look at it as a bucket, and I love how visual this is. Can you kind of explain that a little further for the girls that are on the edge of their seat?
Yes,
like, ooh, we're
absolutely.
getting a solution now.
I know. And I try to be very visual because it really clicks for us.
Yeah.
And, when I was learning all of this stuff, it feels super amorphous and like
It's a lot.
just so much knowledge. But how do we put it into practice? And so we think about, I use the bucket analogy a lot in general, and it's all the contributing factors that when they fill up, they overflow, and then you see symptoms. And so that's why we say, okay, you see these symptoms all the way down the line. All of these things have contributed to it. And so what if that first bucket is, you know, tons of perfume and processed foods and all these toxins, and, you know, you're drinking a lot, whatever else you're doing, and then you're also not, you know, sweating, taking any sort of dandelion root, anything to work with your liver to support it. Because yes, you have a liver and she's great. She does 500 plus functions. She's incredible. But when you're overloading, you need to support it more.
She's tired.
Exactly. Yes. And so it's like, yes, our bodies are incredible and so strong, and they also have a limit. Both things can be true. So that first bucket of kind of toxin exposure and liver detox. And then we get into the gut piece.
Okay.
And the gut hormone axis is so interesting. I did a whole masterclass on it because it's just fascinating to me. Your gut, so you have all of these lovely living things in your gut that break down food and break down other things in your body. Specifically, there is what's called the estrobolome. So we talk about our microbiome, which is, you know, the collection, the rainforest of bacteria and yeast and whatever else is in there in your whole gut. We also have the estrobolome. Its entire job is to break down estrogen. And so if your liver already can't handle the excess estrogen that's in your body, whether that's from synthetic estrogens, you know, endocrine disruptors, or your own estrogen, it's not being broken down, then it's also not being packaged up because your estrobolome is not there. It's not functioning as well as it could be. It's not leaving the body because ultimately you basically poop out your excess estrogen. And so if it's not being packaged, it can't get out. And it recirculates. And that's where we see that estrogen dominance piece. That's where you're going to get those estrogen dominance symptoms like breast tenderness and PMS and heavy periods and heavy clotting, all of that.
Fibroids?
Yes. And so all of these pieces can, you know, work in conjunction to make your life hell, basically.
Yeah.
And then we have, you know, emotional stress, your physical stressors. When I say like work stress, sitting in traffic all the time, family dynamics. If you are the emotional caretaker or physical caretaker for so many people around you, but you're not being poured into, all of these different pieces of stress, financial stress, whatever, the political and general state of the world is a resting level of stress on us. And, you know, we feel that up in our brain, and we forget sometimes that our brain is a part of our physical body.
Yeah.
When you're having these high stress reactions to the news and whatever else, that is being metabolized into your body as a physical chemical response. And that downstream is going to impact your adrenals, your nervous system. And so then your adrenals are going to burn more minerals, going to burn through your magnesium. And you're already probably not getting enough of that from what you're eating. And so you're going to feel like that, like you're going to take flight.
Yeah.
And all of those pieces. And we talked about, you know, that nervous system piece. When that cortisol is really high, your progesterone isn't going to get produced as well. And so we can talk about, you know, I've laid out all this stuff to result in this one symptom. And we talk about how complex our body is, but that means any place that you improve. I want to say this to give people hope because you're probably like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be okay.
What do I even do?
Yeah, put me back on the birth control. But I say that to say any improvement you make in any of those buckets is going to have a downstream impact, and it's going to help you. So that's not to say it has to be all or nothing. It doesn't all have to be perfect. And if you're like me, don't go out and make a 50-point list that you're going to fix by the end of the weekend and you're going to be perfect and there's never going to be a problem again because you're just going to handle it. I'm saying any choice you make that is going to impact one of those buckets and help you is going to help you ultimately with painful periods.
So it seems like bucket one is the toxins, right? And then bucket two is estrobolome?
The gut.
The
overall.
gut.
Yeah.
I've never once heard that in my life.
Yes.
Estrobolome. I feels like I should know that word. So
But who would teach you?
you.
Yeah.
That's why you're here. And then the third bucket is the just external stress.
Yeah.
And so obviously you can do what you can with the external stress. I would try and control that as much as you can, maybe less doom scrolling.
Get off your phone.
Get off your phone.
Oh my gosh.
But I think that first bucket is probably something that's more actionable for women to start trying to address. So can you tell me a little bit more about endocrine disruptors?
Yeah.
Because that's something a lot of women overlook when they are in the Bath and Body Works. And like before, as soon as she walked in, I thought, oh my gosh, I shouldn't put on perfume today because I know better.
No. But we talk about Okay. And I always preface things, and you're going to hear this and kind of roll your eyes, but I say it to say, like I said, that every vote towards the bucket is going to have an impact.
Yeah.
And that's because my personality is so all or nothing and so perfectionistic. And I find a lot of us that end up with a lot of these issues have that kind of perfectionistic streak. So when we talk about toxin exposure, because if you have been on the internet at all, you've probably seen those videos that are so dysregulating because they're like, everything's a toxin, everything's trying to kill you, blah, blah, blah. And like, that is not helpful because that is creating a stress.
Yeah.
And so we say, okay, can you swap out your perfume? Can you swap out your candles?
What are we swapping them out with?
Sure. So I believe I still have an active guide that has actually all of these swaps listed, some of my favorites. The best thing, I think, post-COVID has been the rise of so many non-toxic product companies that are actually really good and affordable. So there are things, Henry Rose, I believe, is the perfume I'm wearing, and it's more non-toxic. It's more natural-based.
Phthalate-free?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll have to double check.
Is that what the girl should look for?
Yes.
Because I went through and was just like, I like doing research and just like starting random side hustles and stuff. And I was going through and looking at the different vaginal washes, and it was insane to me that like 99% of them have sulfate. It's like the second ingredient.
Yeah.
What is that? Well, can you tell the girls why that is something you don't want all up in your yoni?
Yes. Oh my gosh. And especially when we talk about the yoni, it is so full of blood vessels, which is awesome for a lot of things, not great for absorbing anything that you put in there. Because when you are in contact with that, it's getting absorbed directly into your bloodstream. And so things that are going to mimic your hormones, things like sulfates, like phthalates, all of these, the big list. Basically, if you Google any sort of like top 10 toxins to avoid, it'll be that list.
Yeah.
It's because it's getting absorbed directly into your bloodstream. That's not great.
It's not helping.
It's wreaking havoc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please stop. And so my approach when I talk about, going non-toxic, detoxing your home, whenever you run out of something, then replace it. It's not, again, that you have to set fire to your whole house, get rid of everything, and go spend $2,000 to replace everything. But we think about, okay, how many products are we coming into contact, particularly as women, every single day? So you think about skincare, you think about your makeup, you think about your body lotion, your fragrance, the things you're breathing. So if you have a super scented car diffuser, please get rid of it. Please. You think about your cleaning materials. You think about building materials. And those things we don't have as much control over, like your apartment. If it's off-gassing VOCs, go build your own house? I don't know.
No, not if you're in an apartment.
No.
Not in this economy.
No, not in this economy. And so we talk about, on the spectrum of things you can and cannot control. So just as you run out of things, consider replacing them. The top two things, if I were to give you just like two, switch your laundry detergent, because that is on your clothes and it's on your skin. Your skin is your biggest organ and you're absorbing things.
And it's on your panties.
Yeah.
It's down there too.
Too close.
Too close.
Too close to the yoni. And so replacing that laundry detergent. There are super effective ones like Molly Suds. It's what I use. I just got my mom to change, which is actually a big deal. Such a big deal because she's a little conventional gal and she wants it her way. But replacing your laundry detergent and replace your perfume if you can. Those are the top two. After that, it's like you're getting additional benefit, but those are probably two of the biggest things as far as endocrine disruption.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there anything, is it like, what about the Tupperware saran wrap? Or do you
Yes,
have
that too.
Do you have a list we can refer
Yes,
the girls to?
I
Because
do.
you could probably go on and on about it.
I could. And, when you're hearing this versus reading it, where you can come back to, you're probably freaking out. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much information. There are so many guides out there, even if it's not mine. Like, there's so many. Yes, preferably not plastic Tupperware, because you're just heating plastic in the microwave.
Yeah.
Please stop doing that.
Yeah, my husband hates when I do it.
Yep.
He's like, your period's coming soon. Stop.
Oh.
Like, no,
We love him for that, though.
He suffers. Yeah, he does. He's a good guy. Okay, so how can a woman tell the difference between a hormonal imbalance, a gut issue, or stress showing up as period symptoms?
Sure. So obviously, if we have unlimited money, go and run a lab test, whatever. That is not the first option. When we think about if this is hormonally driven, is it something that's happening every month? Because obviously, if you can't look exactly at what your hormone levels are, it's hard to say what percentage of this issue, because they're all connected, what percentage is hormonal, what percentage is acute stress, like I lost my job this month, whatever, huge stress, or I'm traveling a ton, or there's family over, or how much is your gut? Is it because you have an acute gut infection? Is it because whatever? Because we can't see that data in real time, we have to use kind of proxies. So if it's hormonal, it's probably repeating every month, consistently. Mm-hmm. So those are things like the dreaded luteal phase and how much of that is hormonally driven. If you're getting that very, hormonal acne that shows up right before your period, you kind of know what's being driven by your monthly cycle versus what is being exacerbated by your monthly cycle. So if you have an underlying gut health issue, if you have leaky gut that's driving a lot of inflammation, if you have a yeast overgrowth that's causing you to eat a ton of sugar and crave sugar all the time and get super bloated, you're probably going to get bloated all the time. It might get incrementally worse during your luteal phase when you're already holding more water, but that doesn't mean it's mainly hormonal. So there are certain things that are constant and like a constant pain in your butt, basically, or are they getting worse at a certain time in your cycle? That's the easiest way to differentiate.
And that's so interesting. And I feel like we keep going back to if you take a pause to listen to what your body is trying to tell you, then you'll get closer to figuring out what's really going on.
Yeah.
So many women say they feel hungrier or crave more comfort foods before their periods. What is actually happening biologically during that phase?
Yeah. And so we already introduced our friend progesterone, who's supposed to be this very calm, chill hormone. When you are in your luteal phase, aside from progesterone being high, you are actually building basically the house for assuming you are getting pregnant during ovulation. Every single month, regardless of you're actually getting pregnant or not, your body's anticipating that. And so it is building essentially a house to house a fetus. And that is calorically needy because you're creating more tissue. That's what's ultimately coming out on your period when you're bleeding, when you see like tissue and blood. That is the losing that endometrial lining. That is happening every month, regardless of whether you're having a baby or not.
And so to build it up, it's almost
that
like
takes calories.
In puberty, when your body was growing, you just needed to eat more.
Yeah. Or even, not just in puberty when you're talking about building muscle, going to the gym, whatever, you're going to get hungry because your body's creating more tissue. And if that's happening every single month and you're already under eating or barely eating maintenance calories, and then your caloric needs go up 100-200 calories a day during your luteal phase, and you're kind of building that caloric deficit if you're already under eating, and then you're cutting even deeper when your metabolism is higher, of course you're going to feel hungry. Of course you're going to feel cranky. But particularly with comfort foods, what's so interesting is your blood sugar stability gets a little more wonky during luteal phase. And so you need more carbs for that serotonin to balance out your mood, to really feel full and to feel comfortable. And then when we talk about comfort foods and sweets like chocolate's super high in magnesium, which is that calming mineral that you need more of when your stress resilience is lower during the luteal phase, when you're not sleeping as well during the luteal phase. Your body is so intelligent that you up here think that you're craving chocolate, and yes, absolutely eat it, but deeper, your body is saying, hey, I need magnesium. Let's translate this into something she's going to understand.
So chocolate is essentially medicine.
Absolutely. 100%. I eat chocolate every day.
Do you?
Yes.
I love
Which
that.
high school me would have freaked out about. And that's such a big win.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I eat chocolate every day?
Was high school you super concerned about weight?
High school me had bulimia.
Oh,
So
no.
yes, because as we kind of tiptoe around my overall health journey, I was bigger than a lot of my friends.
Like taller or just
I
like...
was, yes. So that's the key. I grew up with a lot of very petite friends, very athletic friends. I had 3 back-to-back knee surgeries. So I was in and out of physical therapy for 6 years.
Girl.
Yeah. But that means you can't be on the treadmill all the time burning calories. And so I was never happy with my weight.
Aww.
And then my mother got breast cancer when I was 15. And so, oh yeah, we're getting deep into the lore. When I was 15, and I became, a very large caretaker within the home because I was cooking. And so my dad and brother wanted all this comfort food. And I, back to that theory of control and just handle it myself and not inconvenience anyone. I was like, you know what? In my little teenage brain, I can fix this because I'm going to eat the same stuff they do. I'll just take care of it later. Because I couldn't run it off because I was in physical therapy.
Yeah.
And then looking back on that, the years leading up to my thyroid cancer diagnosis, my thyroid was obviously in trouble. My metabolism was really shot. And so, to be able to eat chocolate every day is really a big win after all of that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I got to send you a basket of chocolate or
Please
something.
do.
So several studies show women need more calories in the luteal phase, as you just explained. What happens when women ignore those needs and try to diet or restrict during that time, which I was guilty of until I finally started talking with ChatGPT, and it was like, girl, you need to stop fasting before your period.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You need to stop because I was a fast like a girl, Yeah. And once I did that, it didn't fix all of it, but it changed everything.
It's amazing what happens when we're properly nourished. It's almost like our bodies are really smart.
Oh my gosh.
And that's a wrap. We're done. But no, and we talked about this, thinking about your body a little bit more like an animal. Girl, of course you're cranky. You're hungry. You're hungry. And you are so used to not honoring your hunger needs and your hunger pains. And I've so far talked about this in the course of, under eating in general, but also with fasting. That is an acute stress on your body. And there are beneficial stresses and detrimental stresses, and they're not the same for everyone. Because, we see these videos online that are like, cold plunging is always great for you. No, it's not. Fasting is not always great for you. If you are already undernourished, if you have a higher caloric need than you're willing to admit, and if you are, not taking that seriously and you're fasting because you think it's good for you, that is adding more stress than it's worth. The benefits are not going to be outweighed by the fact that your body can't produce the hormones it needs to have a healthy cycle because you're not eating enough calories, let alone enough healthy fats to create that cholesterol to then create your hormones. And if we think about that from a very, scientific kind of formulaic standpoint, if you don't have enough inputs, there's going to be issues. And that's, it sounds very simple, but sometimes we have to take it back to that of saying, you need to eat. And that's okay. Like it's not a moral failing.
I mean, that should be put on a t-shirt. You need to eat and that's okay. And so is this just in luteal phase, the increased calorie need?
Yes.
Tell that directly to the girls right now. How many a week before your period?
Yes.
You're supposed to be eating more food because your body is getting ready to house a baby that may or may not be coming.
Yes, but that's what's happening.
Yeah, but that's what's happening. So how many more calories a day?
Yeah, so we're talking 100 to 200 a day. I tend to fudge on the side of 200 with clients because I know you're under eating anyways. So this is my chance to be like, go ahead.
Do all women that you see, are we all just hungry all the time? Is everyone just trying to shrink?
I don't want to say all the time because I've also seen, an athlete who was ex-Navy and like she's super strong and she has no problem with that. But by and large, diet culture is still so strong, and not to completely derail this conversation, but with the rise of, oh my God, skinny talk and Ozempic, and you know what? Yes, it's a time and place, but the skinification, it feels like the 2000s again.
The low-rise jeans? Girl.
It feels like the 90s and 2000s again, except it is also like drug-driven.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I mean, when you have like the more balanced figureheads like Oprah being like, come on with Ozempic.
Serena Williams pissed me off. That's all I'll say.
I mean,
I was like, she is powerful.
Out of all the people in the world.
It broke my heart.
Serena, girl, we were rooting for you.
Yeah, everyone was rooting for you, girl.
We were rooting for you.
And, especially when we see such strong, powerful women like that who are, yes, obviously have strong, character, but physically strong.
You're supposed to be strong.
Yes,
like
and
you empower
that
women
girls
that
should look
see
up
you.
to. But even now they're shrinking. That makes me so sad.
It's super sad.
Yeah, because I'm over here like, I wish I look like I have to work so hard to put on muscle.
Right. Like now that is finally the phase that I'm in, it's like, but you're lifting heavy weights, girl, but you're doing the right thing. Like you don't, who said you needed to be a size 2?
The industry. Anyways, so all of that to say, yes, it's incredibly dangerous when we think, and you know, from my own background, now that you know my eating disorder history, to think that we can take all of these actions and not have any detrimental effects, that the end goal is to be skinny and that's all that's going to happen. Honey, I lost my hair. My skin was falling off like in sheets. I looked so ill because, again, to that point, you don't have inputs. And so if you don't have inputs to run your body, you don't have inputs for the vanity metrics like luscious glowing hair and good nails. My nails stopped growing.
It's like, we're just trying to survive, girl.
Yes. Like I'm trying to get enough calories for my heart to beat.
Oh my God.
So I will take this moment to, go off of painful periods and say, if you are not eating enough, you have got to start. And I know it's scary. I, more than most people, know how scary that refeeding phase is. But whether you are just, yes, we talk about healing painful periods and you need to eat enough to do that and to have fabulous hair and whatever else. If your goal is to actually look good and to look skinny, whatever, one might not even be your body type, but not even going into that. If your goal is to look good, you will not look good if you are not eating. You will look ill.
Yeah. And we all see that now, especially now that the celebrities have been
It looks
overdoing the Ozempic.
It looks wrong.
It looks dangerous.
Yes.
It looks dangerous.
But it's glamorized. And it's so, anyways, we'll get off that joint soapbox, but yeah. We cannot be doing that.
Maybe we'll circle back at some point. Staying healthy shouldn't feel like a full-time job. I used to get sinus infections all the time, and I knew when it was a sinus infection, but that still meant calling the doctor, waiting for an appointment, clearing my whole schedule, driving across town, sitting in a waiting room, paying for a bunch of tests I didn't need just to get the prescription I already knew I needed. But with Sesame, I opened the app, book a call, same day, still had my bonnet on. We did a quick little call, and within minutes, my prescription was called into a local pharmacy. You literally cannot beat that. And it's not just sinus infections. If you're dealing with painful periods, menopause, infections, if you need access to GLP-1s, mental health support, therapy, they have doctors and specialists ready, and you don't need to wait months to be seen. No insurance needed, no insurance games, no long delays, no jumping through hoops just to get the care you need. They've made healthcare shockingly simple. This app is totally free to download, so tap the QR code on your screen and check it out, because time and peace of mind are priceless, and Sesame gives you both. What natural remedies have you seen make the biggest difference for PMDD and PMS?
Okay, so specifically for things like PMS, and PMDD, doing something that is going to be basically a multi-use, I am very careful to give you a specific supplement, like X number of milligrams of this particular thing. My favorite thing that I took when I first went off of birth control is called Soothe. It is an herbal tincture by Peace Love Hormones. Love them. I partner with them now, but I have been with them for 5 years when I first went off. Because they use a lot of herbs synergistically, and they use it in a way that they're meant to be balancing. Like you're not going to overdo it. You're not going to accidentally take 5 times the necessary magnesium. Which like that can happen.
What you see in a lot of the supplements.
Yes.
It's just like 20,000% of your daily value. It's like, do I need that?
No, and it's also not being absorbed. Be so for real.
Your body can't even handle it.
No, it can't. And especially if you have gut and liver issues, it's not being so. Anyways, to stay on topic, something like a Soothe.
Is that a tea?
It is an herbal tincture. So I put it in like a shot glass with a little bit of water and just shoot it in the morning. It's either from Peace Love Hormones, Organic Olivia. Brands like that have very good, well-formulated herbal tinctures because they are clinical herbalists. And I have a huge respect for them. I think getting into the holistic world, I want to know so much, but I'm also so aware of what I'm not a professional in. And so working with someone like that to say, okay, the Soothe tincture has incredible things like Chinese peony root. It has Vitex, which is called the women's herb. It's incredibly balancing, but it also has things like dandelion root that are going to improve that liver clearance that we talked about. And so all of these things can work together in, a shot you take in the morning. And something that's so simple like that would be the best starting point. And I prefer that approach versus, doing a ton of hormonal panel testing and saying, okay, you need X amount of estrogen, synthetic estrogen, or whatever else, because you can overshoot that. And then you have to keep retesting versus something that's going to really build that foundation and bring you back into balance. If you just want to start with one thing, that would be my starting point.
So balance is the goal here.
Yes.
Finding balance. Why do cold drinks, cold foods, or cold environments make some period symptoms worse?
I love this question because it is so rooted in traditional Chinese medicine, which I am a nerd over. I think it's so cool. But when we talk about balance, your blood needs to flow, which sounds like, yeah, duh, no kidding. But when we talk about your period, your blood flow. So anything that's going to cause stagnation. And when we break this down, yes, logically, if you stop for 2 seconds to think about it, you're like, oh, duh. Because as you get colder, you eventually get to ice. Ice is stagnant, not moving. As you get hotter, things are moving a lot more, which is why saunas are so great because they're really helping that circulation. But specifically for things like walking around barefoot on that cold tile, drinking cold drinks, one, it's going to slow down your digestion, which is going to make you feel sluggish anyways because your energy production is off. But two, it is slowing down your circulation. And so that's going to slow down your overall blood flow, but particularly on your period, it's slowing down your flow. And so that can cause more clotting. It can cause a more difficult period. And so just keeping things nice and warm if anyone is new to cycle syncing, a lot of times we talk about the phases as an analogy to the seasons of the year. And so when you're on your menstrual phase, when you're bleeding, that's winter. And so basically a rule of thumb is operate like it's winter. You don't need to be drinking iced coffee in the dead of winter and walking around barefoot. Fuzzy socks, hot tea, warm foods, all of those things. Like just treat it like the season essentially, and you'll see the experience starts to get a lot better.
Something as simple as not walking on cold floors.
Literally, and I'm so guilty of it. I was walking halfway through the apartment. I was like, oh my God, where are my chanclas? Where are my slippers? Like they're not. And they were under the bed. So,
and I think when it comes to Chinese medicine, that's something that we try and look to and integrate in my business, Skinny Hippie, with our period products and all of that stuff, and trying to just find the more holistic approach to helping people solve things instead of just throwing weed at them. But when it comes to Chinese medicine, I think a lot of people are apprehensive, especially if they've just been brought up in the Western world where you're just used to solutions coming in pill form. Yeah. But I like to remind women that America's 400 years old. They've been dealing with periods for thousands of years over there. Yeah. They figure some stuff out.
Yes.
And if you're still searching for a solution after going to your doctor, after trying the birth control, then maybe it's time to look a little beyond our borders for some answers.
Absolutely. And I think, one, that goes to having a measure of humility.
Yeah.
To say that newer isn't always better. Yes, there are so many incredible things that have happened with modern science and Western science. And also, there are ancient truths. Both of those things can be true. And when you first start to unplug from kind of Western ideology, it's so great in an acute issue. We talked about having 3 knee surgeries. I wouldn't be walking without conventional medicine. But when we talk about, every single month for all of your reproductive years, unless you're pregnant or something else is going on, you're probably going to have a period. And as a woman, your hormones are changing all the time until you hit menopause. And so we don't necessarily need an acute-based philosophy. We need that much more balance-oriented, like we talked about, something that is looking to balance your foundations like TCM does. And that's why I love it so much. And I'm sure you do too.
Absolutely. So what role do supplements, I know you said you're kind of cautious when it comes to supplements, but what role do supplements like magnesium that we've touched on, DIM, vitamin D3, K2, maybe any other ones you want to throw out there, what role do those play in hormonal balance, and who benefits most from them?
Absolutely. And when it comes to supplements, there is no hate on supplements. I think they're overused.
Yeah.
Or they're used as a first defense, as they should be used as supplementation on the top. Yeah, it's in the name. It should be used as kind of a cherry on top, or to fill in where we're not getting from our modern diet, because that is its own beast. And even if you're eating super clean, you just aren't getting the sheer level of vitamins and nutrients that used to be in food. So there is a time and place for supplements, particularly things like magnesium. When I'm seeing my fellow type A, high stress, burning the candle at all the ends, can't slow down, and you see that nervous system that just is like a flutter and just buzzing and burning out. Magnesium is incredible because you need to calm down, and you need those minerals to help you calm down. It's not just a mental thing. It is a body mineral status thing. And so whether that's taking magnesium glycinate, I actually use a magnesium body oil. I'll spray it on my feet before bed.
Ooh.
I love it.
I
love it. And I love it particularly because it gets around the issue of, well, what if my gut is compromised and it's not absorbing as well as it needs to? Because if you're taking a capsule, you're assuming that your stomach acid can break it down. You're assuming that you have what you need in your gut to break it down and metabolize it. And if you are dealing with gut issues, you may want to find more topical options, or doing a tincture, like a liquid format. That's why I tend to skew more towards those options. But magnesium is incredibly helpful for my high stress girls.
Can you break down what exactly magnesium is doing? Like from the sciencey side, I want you to get as sciencey as you need to right now. What is magnesium doing when it's helping?
So to back us all the way up, in general, magnesium is a nervous system calming agent. The reason that works is because you have what are called adrenals. And adrenals are what produce a lot of your cortisol, a lot of your adrenaline. Those, stress responses, they sit right on top of your kidneys. And we're hitting all the hot button things to talk about, like high cortisol, whatever. That's where this is coming from. Because when you are chronically stressed, your nervous system is signaling to your adrenals to say, more cortisol, more cortisol. We need to keep up with this because we are running away from a threat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, again, we talk about our bodies being so compassionate and so helpful, even though the stress is, a Teams message or traffic, your body's like, I'm going to get us out of here. I'm going to get us out of here. And you do that all the time. And so in order for your adrenals to keep up, in order for your nervous system to keep up, it relies on key minerals like magnesium. And magnesium is one of the first ones to become deficient when you have been in that chronically elevated state, in that nervous system dysregulation for so long, you're burning through your reserves. And you're also probably, again, not getting enough from your diet, not getting enough from, mineralized water, whatever. And so your body is continuing to pull on that reserve. But if there's not enough, it's not, creating that calming effect. And so that is why magnesium is so important, is because it's, again, we talk about the buckets and reserves. Those are things your body needs. And if you're not getting them from your food, we need to be supplementing.
And so that's why magnesium helps with painful periods, and it also helps with sleep.
Yeah.
Like guys take magnesium for sleep and say it's life-changing. Yeah.
Because it helps your nervous system to switch into that parasympathetic state and to chill out a little bit.
And what about vitamin D? I've been seeing more and more about that, especially as I've been on my fibroid journey. Yeah. And as a woman of color, that's something that most of us are really deficient in, and that maybe contributes to the higher rates of fibroids. Causation, correlation, that whole conversation. But what does vitamin D do?
So it is going to help with that overall mood stabilization. It's also, we talk about that particularly being in the winter time right now, for that mood stabilization, for being a cofactor with other hormones. And so again, it's just another one of those main inputs, but it is such a pain point because we're inside all the time. And then, that's the only way to get it.
And then slathered in sunscreen.
Yes.
The few minutes outside.
Yes. Yeah.
And sunscreen's a whole nother conversation.
Oh my gosh, we could talk forever.
I had a skincare company who was like, stop taking the sunscreen. Like, your dermatologist on TikTok is not helping you, saying that the sun come peeking through your window and you need to slather up on sunscreen while you're indoors. I think they might be bought off. I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't a problem before the pandemic, but now apparently we need to slather it on.
Who knows, man?
Yeah. Cycle syncing.
Yes.
You mentioned that. It's getting more popular now. I'd love for you to break that down because it's a little confusing to some people. So what's the simplest, most realistic way for women to understand cycle syncing and start syncing her food, movement, or lifestyle with her cycle?
Yes. And I always want to say, when we talk about things like cycle syncing, it is a compass, not a checklist. Because, you know, like when we talked about toxin exposure or when we talk about cycle syncing, people are like, I have to do every single thing. Okay.
There's that cortisol going up.
Yes. Which I'm like, you're causing stress and you're causing issues. But when we talk about cycle syncing, there can also be the narrative that like, I have to act this way during this week because I'm a woman. And if I don't, I'm going to fall apart. This weird narrative that like, we're so fragile. No, you're just 4 different people. And when you show up and play the game of averages and say, okay, every month I'm going to try to do this. But you know, if I'm on my menstrual phase and I have to take a call or I have to record a podcast, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. Again, just taking so much of the charge and like emotional charge out of that. So all of that to say, when we think about cycle syncing, the easiest way to think about it is as the seasons, because everything can be categorized under that. So we start with your menstrual phase, which is winter. And that is where you are refueling. You're trying to be cozy. You're resting as much as you can. As far as movement, going on walks, yoga, don't hit the gym super hard. I mean, if you have to, go for it. But it's really that replenishing time. This is, if you eat red meat, great time to do it because you're getting those minerals that you have bled out. You know, hot teas, hot beverages, sleeping. From an emotional standpoint, taking time to be alone. Because in the menstrual phase, spiritually and emotionally, it's the cleanse. Because yes, you're physically bleeding, but we're also unpacking what happened the month previous. And so if you have stuff left unsaid, if you have feelings left unfelt, this is a time to get your journal out or to dance it out or whatever so that you're not carrying it into the next cycle.
Yeah.
And then we move into spring, which is your follicular phase. This is when that estrogen is going up. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, so creative, so many ideas. I want to go all the time, blah, blah, blah. So staying a little bit lighter in the spring. So this is when you can do things like raw smoothies, you know, some more veggies, all of those things, particularly things like broccoli or other vegetables that will help to clear any excess estrogen. So we're not overshooting. This is when you can, you know, get into more weight training. If you have the capacity to do HIIT, if you want to do that, do it then. Really being very creative on the emotional side. You're going to be a little bit more social, time to try new things. And that peaks with ovulation, which is your hot girl summer. It is literally hot girl summer.
I'm outside.
Because you are, be careful if you're outside. Let me tell y'all. Because ovulation brain is a thing. And you're going to look hot. Your skin is going to be glowing. And this, I mean, your body's biological drive is saying, hey, I'm fertile.
Let's do this.
And that's why you get that glow, because you're attracting mates from a biological standpoint. But be aware. This is when we're using protection or abstaining, whatever, being careful during that segment of cycle syncing. And just as an aside, when we talk about period education, either you're on your period or you're not, that's overly simplistic. And also, I don't know if you were taught that you can get pregnant anytime.
No.
That's probably a Southern Bible Belt thing that you can, you are like, if you touch pinkies with a man, you're getting pregnant. Okay. You are only fertile for like 5-6 days. So be aware of where those 5 or 6 days are. And I understand that came from, you know, being a teenager and your cycle hasn't leveled out. So you are more fertile, but as an adult, you know, enjoy your ovulation, go be super social. This is a time to record a podcast or go network or host an event, because your social energy and your social battery is like, you are so magnetic. So use that.
I feel like I over plan and schedule during this. It's like, I'm alive again, guys. Yes. Then I want to schedule this and I shoot for the moon. And then
for 2 weeks later.
Oh my God.
Yep.
The rest of the month is like, Jesus.
Yes. So, and this is, I mean, we talk about being in relationship with our body. You're learning how to do this dance. And so, committing for events in follicular and ovulatory, complete those during that phase if you can. Because the same energy you're bringing to the function and ovulation is not going to be the same a week before your period. And you should not set yourself up to fail if you can help it. If you can help it. Because again, if you're a corporate girl and you're living the same life every single day at the office, there are some things you can't change.
Yeah.
But that's when it's saying, okay, what can we move into? So in the luteal phase, that is then your fall. And so it's leading into winter. You're starting to get a little bit more cozy. We're doing those more grounding foods. Remember, this is a time to eat more. So I jokingly, like, you think about Thanksgiving, you're eating more. Easy way to remember. In the luteal phase, things like sweet potatoes, things like chicken, roasted veggies. Like my go-to bowl in luteal phase is some roasted sweet potato with salmon and asparagus or something like that. And it is so good.
Yeah.
And it's so nourishing. And it really is going to help you not feel so out of control with sugar cravings. Because absolutely have your chocolate, like I said. But if you are craving sugar and you're only eating that, you're setting yourself for a lot of blood sugar and energy crashes. And so really fueling yourself during this time especially. This is when we're getting into lower intensity like Pilates, walking, lighter strength training, things like that, just starting to ease off a little bit. This is also a time to, start to unpack and be much more analytical. Fun fact, your brain actually kind of changes during luteal phase. I believe it is the cerebellum that actually gets bigger. Whatever the analytical, like fine detail part of your brain gets bigger during luteal phase, which is so cool. How could you ever hate a woman's body? Like, we're so cool.
So fascinating.
But this is why your intuition in luteal phase, when you're like, but you said da-da-da in your text message from October 17th of 2018, you remember all of that. And so this is a time to, you had all your creativity, you had a lot of this in follicular phase. Now it's time to do like the back end of that in luteal. It's that very yin and yang, both sides of the same coin. Neither one is bad. They're just different. And then the cycle starts over again.
Have you read The Women Who Run with Wolves?
Yes.
I remember reading that and how it talks about this one phase in your cycle is when you're supposed to call that stuff out. It's when you're supposed to get out there and howl at the freaking moon.
It is your truth-telling phase.
It's your truth-telling phase. I like that.
Yes, be confrontational.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It was so empowering to just like see it on paper. And again, it's that, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not going through this alone. I'm supposed to be charging them up like that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then you give them a month to recuperate. It's okay.
So what signs tell a woman she's dealing with estrogen dominance, inflammation, or another issue she should pay attention to?
Sure. And so particularly with estrogen dominance, we're going to see things like that insane breast tenderness, heavy periods, those types of things. Obviously, this is a large category. The general rule is all of these things that are debilitating, take yourself seriously. Do not gaslight yourself and say, oh, it's just XYZ. Just is a word I'm trying to get rid of in 2026.
That's good.
Because it's not just.
Yeah, it's never just. It's never just.
And because if you're mentally playing that game and saying, oh, it's just this, or I'm being so crazy, I need to chill out. Do not gaslight yourself.
You're not listening.
No, take it seriously. And start to really, track things. And the more you learn about your body, the more things are going to pop up and you'll be like, oh, this does influence that thing. And I'm not crazy. And I also don't have 52 different issues. I have maybe 2 core issues, but they have 52 manifestations. And that can feel overwhelming. But if you're only handling those 2 things at the bottom, it's a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it starts with that awareness.
Oh. So I said we were going to circle back. How can supporting your cycle naturally improve weight regulation without asking women to do a bunch extra?
Yeah. Because the whole platitude that I cannot believe I was actually told in person by a medical doctor to eat less and exercise more.
We're all told that.
I know. I can't believe we say that. Like, do you hear that coming out of your mouth?
It's like,
anyways.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. Because like I said, if you're holding on to a lot of excess weight, something's going on, especially if you are already dieting and exercising.
Yeah.
That is a big key that, okay, either you have kind of that really high estrogen piece, if you're dealing with PCOS that comes with insulin resistance, that is that type of PCOS, really working through eating for blood sugar balance. So make sure you are eating regularly and enough. And so that looks like having, all of your macros, having fiber, having protein, having carbs, having fat, having a real meal 3 to 4 times a day. And it's not sexy advice. It's not, do 25 jumping jacks and we're done, whatever. It's not this supplement or detox tea. It is get back to the basics and really give your body what she needs and create consistency for your body. Because when we create consistency, we create safety. And that is going to help with your nervous system. That's going to help with that, if you've been on TikTok, you've heard about like cortisol face or whatever, where it's like you're holding on to fluid retention, basically. Cortisol also causes you to accumulate more abdominal fat because it's trying to protect you. And so when you create that sense of safety, your body will take the shape that it's meant to have. And I'm not going to say that you're going to be skinny. It's going to take the shape that you are designed to have when your body is safe. So eating regularly, not over-exercising. So that looks like, yes, please pick up some weights 2 to 3 times a week. You do not have to be hitting 20,000 steps a day. You really don't. That's probably too much. You don't need to be going to 5 a.m. HIIT workouts every single morning. You don't have to run a marathon. Okay? You really consistent things that invite your body to lay down the arms. And those arms are your weight. It's your protective.
Yeah.
It's trying to put more space between you and the world energetically when we talk about that. And so really taking that time to create safety. So whether that is things like lowering toxin exposure, that's perceived as a threat. Lowering a lot of these emotional stresses, perceived as a threat. Not eating enough. Or then binging and, overloading your body. That's perceived as a threat. Running 26 miles all the time, perceived as a threat. And it's not to say, oh my gosh, my body's so dumb or it's so scared of everything. No, this is the way your body operates. So meet it where it's at. Create a sense of safety. You deserve to feel safe, consciously and body-wise.
It's so interesting that a lot of your advice for how to find balance with your weight is to eat more and maybe exercise less. Because the goal is balance again. Balance and safety. I keep on, every time you mention cortisol, I think about those commercials. Stress increases cortisol. Cortisol is the belly fat thing. And that, you're saying, is your body's way of creating safety.
Yeah.
Because it's preparing for, I guess, the danger that you're signaling is on the way when you are either starving it or you're constantly literally running.
Yes.
Like, what are we running from, girl?
Exactly.
We'll hold on to this fat.
Yes. Well, and that oversimplification of everything, because everything is a targeted ad now. And so the pipeline or the saying with cortisol is like, cortisol is inherently bad. It's evil. It's going to make you ugly and fat, which is wild. A wild take on a naturally occurring hormone that happens in response to stress. But we demonize these things instead of looking at the actual problem. And instead of saying, okay, how can I actually support my body? Instead of being mad at it for doing what it's supposed to do. It's okay.
And it's responding to what you're doing.
Yes. And when we take so much of this emotional charge out of it, because that's creating even more stress, which is a physiological chain reaction, just everybody take a deep breath and, meet yourself with such a place of neutrality. Yeah. Whether we're talking about weight gain or whether we're talking about cortisol or about painful periods or whatever else, bloating, that's a very painful one for a lot of people. Trying to take out such of that hostile feeling. That's a much better standpoint because then you're not so reactive in the choices you're making and you're not running and just trying to fix it right now because that grabbiness and that, trying to fix it immediately.
That angst.
Yes. Yeah. That is not going to lead you to make the best decisions.
Right.
But again, that's the society we live in, which is so instant gratification, instant fix, instant relief, instant whatever. Getting to those very unsexy foundational things, whether we talk about TCM or blood sugar balance, whatever, doing those with consistency and showing up for yourself with devotion instead of so much reactivity and like, I hate myself, I have to fix this right now.
Yeah.
That's never going to result in a good outcome.
It's almost like going from constantly feeling like you're swimming upstream to finally deciding to go with the flow of your body.
Yes. Work
So
with
much
your
easier.
body.
Yeah.
She's smart.
Yeah. She's carried you this far in spite of
Yes.
all of
Of all of it.
all of the things,
Yes.
girl. So I want to take a moment before we get to the community Q&A. I want to talk more about your story. You already shared so much more of it. You were going through it growing up. So your cancer diagnosis at 18. What the F?
Yeah, it was super fun. I highly recommend, obviously. No, and I share a lot of these things, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're going through it," or like, "Oh my, like you're so open." It's like, of course I am, because I could not begin to explain to you how I got to this point without saying, "Okay, back up 10, 15 years. We started so far back." And so obviously we'd already talked about knee surgery, eating disorder, all of this stress, and you're starting to get a picture of how I was, like just so on it all the time.
Yeah.
And that culminated in a thyroid cancer diagnosis. And I remember the way my brain operated at the time. I think I scared my surgeon because I was diagnosed the month before I graduated. So like I turned 18 in April, and then 2 weeks later got diagnosed, and then was supposed to graduate. And I asked him, I was so disassociated from my body at that point that I was like, "Can you just handle this before graduation? Like I just want, like as a to-do list item." I did not feel into it at all because I just could not allow myself to go there because I could not allow myself to feel any emotions. And, now being the energetic woo-woo person I am, I'm like, oh, that made right in the throat chakra. She was not speaking her truth about anything or feeling or any of this. And yes, sure, there are environmental factors, but so much of that was that energetic culmination of like just blockage and so much anger. Because I felt so much anger as a kid for never being good enough, for being so hostile with myself, from the body standpoint, from not being smart enough, from just never being enough and never connecting. And so how could I have expected myself to connect with my own body when that's where we were starting?
Where did that come from though? Like,
oh man.
Was it, I mean, your mom sounds pretty cool.
She's awesome.
Like
she's awesome.
One of those perfectionist moms that was like weighing you every morning, which, God bless you guys if you survived that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like that was it an internal thing, or was it like the society thing, or Jessica Simpson being called a whale for being a size 4?
I think it's so many different pieces because I actually, to the point of my mom, she's wonderful. But she also modeled that, never slow down, never let anything get in your way. And we talked about, she had breast cancer 3 years before I had cancer. And so that was my blueprint for handling it. And she kept going to work. She is a sole practitioner. She's a dentist, owns her own office. She kept going to work. She would go to radiation on her lunch break.
Stop.
And then go back to work. Because she didn't need anything. She doesn't need anybody's help. Very uncomfortable asking for help or being a burden.
Yeah.
And that was internalized for me. Absolutely. And then also the lens of, growing up in the Bible Belt that is very conservative. There's a very particular view of how women should be, which is not too loud, not too much, not too smart, pretty but not too pretty, all of these things, and that we should never need anything, ever. We should always be of service, no matter what. And so that started a lot of it. And then, kind of that path of the parentified eldest daughter, that created so much resentment and anger.
Yeah.
That looking back on now, I just have so much compassion for little me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, girl, of course you were sick.
Yeah.
Of course you were so angry. Like you did what you had to do to survive. And that's okay.
Like even before hearing about the cancer diagnosis in your chronological story, it's like my heart breaks for the little girl that you were at 14 and 15, like making family dinner and trying to balance all of the things and still show up in a society that's scrutinizing essentially every bit of who you are and how you are presenting in the world.
Yeah.
It's just, what would you say to someone that might find themselves in that position now, maybe to the younger version of you, if you could send her a message, what would that be?
Yeah. I think so much of it is being okay with being a highly sensitive person. That's something I'm still making peace with. Because when shit hits the fan, I just like shut down and manage it.
Got to get it done.
And that's fine in the acute standpoint. But being such a big feeling young girl, and I was very artistic, all of these things, I ended up going more academic because that's what I was good at. And that's what I was praised for. But having those big feelings is not a problem. I just was never handed the toolbox to manage them. I was just told I was being dramatic because, my family didn't have the tools to know what to do with that because they hadn't given themselves permission. And we talk about, generational curses and doing generational work. It's not that they're bad people. They're wonderful. That my parents are some of my best friends. And also they did not have the tools to manage, what does a panic attack even look like? And that it's not a moral failing and that it's not you're being dramatic and it's not suck it up. We're still going to this event, even though you are curled up in bed and like shaking. Yeah. Cause you're having this huge wave of emotion. And I've learned now, like that high sensitivity, one, get off your phone, lower your input, all the things I do now to manage it, but it's not a burden. It makes me an incredible storyteller, makes me an incredible like person to connect with. And that's why people share their stories so readily with me. Because I will tell you, like having those feelings and having big emotions is sacred. It's something to work with. It is information.
It's a gift.
Yes. It is not something that's should continually be shut down. And so when I look at, obviously that very simple analogy of the overflowing bucket, I'm like, man, the emotions in that bucket right before I got diagnosed, like, of course we're like doing something dramatic, like getting cancer. Of course, because the amplitude of what I was going through and those emotions and, environmental toxins, whatever else, all of that, of course, the amplitude of the diagnosis is going to match that.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult because I did not want to tell anyone because thyroid cancer is not like a deadly cancer. It's not like the St. Jude's leukemia commercial. Like I ended up just having surgery. I had my thyroid removed and I didn't have to have radiation or anything. But the second you say the big C word to anyone, they are like picking out your coffin. And then, talking about people pleasing and managing everyone else. I am then in the position to manage your emotions about my cancer.
While you're figuring it out at 18.
Yeah, because you're so uncomfortable with the idea that someone your age could get cancer, and that's now being reflected onto me. And so we had that whole fun thing. I ended up graduating Sunday night, and I drove up to St. Jude that same night. I obviously at the time did not have any non-Western medical knowledge, so we went the conventional route, which is fine. Whatever. It is what it is. I ended up having my entire thyroid removed, which for those of you that don't know, your thyroid is basically a hormone messaging center and it acts as the thermostat for your body. So if you have low thyroid function, you're going to be really cold all the time, achy joints, your hair might fall out. You're going to gain a lot of weight. You think about the thermostat, cold, anything means slower. So like gaining weight, slower metabolism, lower body temp, overactive, not an issue I had, but that's where you get kind of that hyperactive, anxious, skinny, no matter what you eat. So when you cut that out of an 18-year-old and then you give them a synthetic drug, and that's all I was given was Synthroid, which I'm still on. That's all I was given to replace something that is so intelligent. And I ended up learning, that's why I learned so much about this, of liver clearance, of can my body even break down this drug to then have its effect be proper. And that's what really drove me into functional medicine. It wasn't the cancer diagnosis. I joke that was actually like the easy part because surgery at that point I had down. I've had so many surgeries, it didn't matter. Having the cancer was not hard. It was 2 years later when my body bottomed out halfway through undergrad and I was sleeping 16 hours a day. My hair fell out in clumps. I went from being an honors fellowship student who was in like this crazy whatever program to failing out of school because I could not, like my reading comprehension went away. I would be like, because part of your thyroid health is it works with your brain and your cognitive function. And brain fog was probably the scariest thing I've ever gone through because I was losing words all the time. Not just like, oh, I can't find this vocab word, like trailing off in the middle of a sentence all the time and just losing it. And I couldn't retain information, so I couldn't pass exams. And I was just so exhausted all the time. My digestion took a hit, all of it. And thyroid issues are also deeply tied to depression. And
I can imagine.
Yeah, because of course you can't move. And so I went from, relatively healthy, whatever, because I had my cancer diagnosis. I was so determined not to let it slow me down. Just like I was like, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm going to college. And so 2 years later, continuing to blowtorch the candle, instead of learning how to nourish my body and, work with this new, not handicap, but new way my body is. And so it bottomed out. And that's what really drove me to functional medicine, because I was in such a dark place of my body is completely giving up. I'm in so much pain. I remember crying to my mom that I just felt ancient. Like I felt like I had woken up in a 90-year-old's body. I was just so, like my bones hurt. And that's really tough to try to explain to other undergrad students.
Yeah.
And so I moved home and lost most of my friendships.
Oh, no.
Because that's incredibly uncomfortable for anyone else. Why would they want to, sad girl over here?
Yeah, not bringing the vibes.
That's fine. It's fine.
Well, it's not, but it's not. But.
It's not, but it's understandable.
Yeah.
And so I entered functional medicine through a compounding pharmacist. That was my first intro. And that was a really good lesson in everyone has their own bias. So even though you're a compounding holistic pharmacist, the pharmacist in you is still, let's take 25 supplements. And so instead of, even though we did functional medicine lab testing, which I love, and it's so validating when you are first getting into this to say, I'm not crazy, I'm not lazy, I'm not making it up, I'm not being dramatic. They did a 24-hour cortisol test on me because your cortisol is supposed to go like this nice wave. It's what gets you out of bed. So don't be hating on cortisol. It's the reason there's a cortisol awakening response. It gets you out of bed. And it's supposed to have this nice, wave throughout the day. Mine was like a flat line.
Ooh.
I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like I'm not making this up. My body literally cannot get out of bed. And that actually is when I went off hormonal birth control for the first time when I was 20.
So you were on it
The whole
throughout
time.
this.
Yeah. Because remember, I started so Western, so conventional. That was my whole life. And that was my whole society that I had no idea.
And no reason to question it.
No, because then, the main issue was the big C cancer and thyroid issues. And in my brain, those two weren't connected at all. And so that took the forefront. And I was like, yeah, I'm still taking birth control. It's just what you do. And so I did go cold turkey on birth control, which would not recommend.
No? Why not?
Because, we talk about all these foundations. And when you're quitting birth control, that's adding another huge stressor because now your body's trying to reestablish a cycle, but you're also not clearing toxins well. You're also super stressed out and you're undernourished. And so instead, I would recommend, taking 6-ish months to build those foundations up and then go off. It'll be a lot easier. Okay. And so I was, living at home, taking 25 whatever supplements. I was taking hormone creams. I had gone off birth control, cold turkey. It was a lot. And it really drove home my belief at the time that I'm never going to be okay. Because if I have to do all of this, it feels like a full-time job.
Yeah.
And that's also when I dove into, toxin exposures. And it's like, oh my gosh, every single thing is toxic. I'm never going to be okay unless I live out on a farm. But even then you're getting run off and blah, blah, blah. That deep, dark rabbit hole you can go in when you first go into holistic health. It can feel so paralyzing and overwhelming. And that's why I love being an educator in this space. And that's why I put, so much context and nuance around everything I say, almost probably too much baggage, but I say it because I remember how that felt to have this 5-page long list of all the things I can't do. And you shrink your whole life around trying to be perfect. Again, that perfectionistic streak. Trying to do all of this right in the hopes that your body might be okay.
Yeah.
Not even that you're going to be ultimately healthy and happy and whatever, but just that you're going to get by.
It's trying to survive.
And I I hate that other people have to feel that way. And so that's why I'm so passionate about what I do now, because that was my first introduction. And then, after several years of my own study, I was like, I can teach on this and I have my own things to say. And that has been so accelerated. I went through the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, which I love. They are so great about all the foundations. And they also taught me how to read functional medicine labs so that I can facilitate that for others. And then also this past year, like the third act in this, because that's super nerdy and super technical. And we talk about the pregnenolone steal and whatever. Now overlaying that with emotional and spiritual work and creativity. And what does rest really look like? And what does community really look like? And those contribute so much more to your health than whatever supplement I could ever suggest. And so it's been this incredible, 3-act movement of how all of this knowledge has helped me and served me up until now. And that's why I'm able to tell these stories now.
And so when you were going through that education process, were you essentially your own patient?
Mm-hmm.
And is that what brought you back to you?
Yeah. I think at that point I was, pretty knowledgeable about a lot of different, all the different articles you've read about toxins and about supplements and what supplement does what. But to go through a program that is able to weave it all together,
Contextualize it all.
yes, to turn that sheer volume of knowledge into actual applied wisdom, that's such a big deal. And to make it more actionable. So yes, long story short, I was my biggest first patient or client. And that's when I finally did a full gut health reset, because that is so important in my overall story. And I had been, just slamming more supplements, not realizing I'm still bloated like I'm 6 months pregnant. I have a huge candida overgrowth and leaky gut from all these years of stress and toxin exposure. And so it doesn't matter. Like I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on supplements
So you just peed out.
that I'm peeing out. Yes. Yes.
Can we talk about how crazy it is that none of us were ever really taught how our hormones work? Nobody explained ovulation. Nobody explained hormone shifts. Nobody explained why some months feel completely different than other months. That's why I love Mira. Mira is a hormone tracking system that gives you real insight into your actual numbers, not just guessing based on an app calendar. Whether you're trying to conceive, planning ahead, navigating irregular cycles, or just trying to understand what your body's doing, Mira gives you the clarity that you need to change everything. You can track ovulation, you can understand your patterns, you can see what's happening instead of wondering. This isn't about pressure, it's about participation. Because when you understand your hormones, you stop feeling crazy and start feeling informed. Screenshot the QR code and tap into Mira. If you've ever said, I have an idea, I just don't know how to start, this is for you. I use Shopify for all of my businesses, every single one, online, in store, on my phone, on the go. It runs Skinny Hippie Wellness, it runs our retail, it runs our back end. And what I love most, I'm not tethered to a laptop. I can check orders from my phone, update products from my phone, see what's selling in real time, manage my store while I'm literally in the carpool lane. And let's talk about how good it looks. I built skinnyhippie.co using a Shopify theme. No coders, no complicated tech team, no begging somebody to fix the site. Their templates make you look so professional from day one. It takes your idea and turns it into income. So if you've been waiting for a sign to start, this is it. You can scan the QR code on your screen and try Shopify for just $1 for 3 months. Go ahead, tap on in. This is the sign you've been waiting for, girl.
So can you tell us about maybe 1 or 2 client transformation stories before we get to the Q&A? Maybe a client who was dealing with PMS or PMDD and how they've been able to transform using a holistic approach.
Yeah. One of mine that I love, she had gone off birth control before she came to see me, like 6 months before, which I was like, please, no. Because she had just gone off cold turkey, all that stuff. But being able to turn that back around because she had come to me because she knew she didn't want to be on birth control. She knew she wanted to stay off of it. She knew it wasn't really working for her. But then going off of it cold turkey for 6 months, she's like, my period still isn't regular. I still feel like crap. I'm thinking about going back on it because we still have to function in this society that expects us to be, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
And so she had come to me at that inflection point and she was like, I feel crazy. And that's such a tough way to operate. But, you talk about putting words and language behind what we're feeling. And I said, does it feel like you are like strapped in the chair inside your brain watching this all happen? It's almost like the Inside Out movie of like, I'm back here and I'm watching it happen, but I can't stop it. And it's like, I know that's not really me. And also you're exhausted because you're feeling all these PMS, huge tsunami level waves of rage. And you know logically that you cannot just like blast your boss or your coworker or whatever. So you're burning all this energy throughout the day, keeping a lid on it.
Suppressing
it. And so you're exhausted and you still didn't have an outlet for that. And so I think having that language around it at the beginning was so helpful for her.
Yeah.
To say, okay, I'm not crazy. Birth control isn't actually going to fix it. How can we now build these, basics? And so for her, that meant something so simple as having a consistent sleep schedule. Because she was all over the place. She was like, it's not affecting me that much. I'm young. I was like, again, one of those core truths of my practice, which is promote a sense of safety in your body. That's directly linked to that.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we did the whole swapping out as many toxic products as you want, working through that. That's an easy fix, water filter, whatever else. Really locking in on simple nutrition things. We did a little bit of liver support, nothing crazy. We did like a herbal tincture that's liver detox supplementing.
And that's to help with the excess estrogen? Okay.
Yeah. And all other toxins, when you're doing all the fragrance and everything else, all the toxins we listed before, if your body can't break it down enough, it's weighing on your liver and then it's also being stored in fat cells because your body has to just put it somewhere. And so we did that. I got her off of HIIT classes for a little bit. I was like, you can go back to them. It's fine. But your body is so stressed right now. We need to take a break.
Yeah, when you're just like panting,
Yes.
like your body doesn't know a lion's not behind it when you're running like a lion is behind it.
Yes. And you're also not sleeping regularly. And so your body thinks you're just like on the run. And another big piece we did for her, because so much of hers was around nervous system regulation, because she was very stressed from her own background, from emotional dynamics. Her work is very stressful. And so I was like, can you just give me 30 minutes in the morning where you are actually eating breakfast? That's a big thing. Eating an actual breakfast. Because that's going to tell your body, hey, we're not starving. And it's going to give you fuel. We talk about inputs, like you need fuel in the morning. Where you are eating breakfast, where you are not on your phone. If it's warm enough, you're going outside. And you are just taking even just 5 deep breaths, like taking 30 minutes to sit with yourself and decompress before the rest of the day starts. Because if the first thing you're doing in the morning is waking up at a random time to a really loud alarm, going straight on your phone to scroll, not eating breakfast, going straight to an iced coffee.
Then high intensity workout.
Yeah, going straight. Yeah, of course you're not going to feel great. And that nervous system regulation and feeling safe is directly correlated with having a healthy cycle. And so it really was, those very unsexy, simple things. I was like, if you will do these consistently, we will be able to build up that foundation. And she was like, I remember she texted me. She's like, oh my God, my period came on time. I was like, yeah, girl. Yeah. I was like, that's how that works. And, really just so much of what I do is more on the knowledge piece.
The wisdom piece, I'd
yes.
say. It's more wisdom at this point.
Thank you. Yeah. But giving them permission by telling them these things, empowering women with that wisdom about their own bodies of saying, you are not crazy because you're actually incredibly smart. And if I just tweak you a little bit and set you in this direction, you're going to figure out what works for your body.
Yeah.
If you give yourself permission to do that. And if you are off your phone long enough in the morning to hear your body, like it does not have to be so complicated.
It's It sounds like a lot of what you kind of meet people with is, I guess, what should be kind of common sense, but we're just, I guess, too busy to listen to that. Or maybe we feel like we're too smart for it and we're still just going to fast before our periods and all of that stuff. But you're just like, eat and rest and calm the F down.
Yeah. And I dealt with that a lot when I first started actually seeing paying clients, because I was like, this seems really simple. Like, is this legit? And then I was like, but legit? No one actually does it. I was like, should people really pay me to say this? And I'm like, yes, because I do, of course, have all that knowledge of why all of it works. But so much of what I try to do, particularly through the podcast, particularly through education now, as I'm angling more towards, that platform and away from one-on-one work of saying, how do I take this huge bubble of knowledge and, like you said, being too smart for the simple things? Because it can't be that simple. Because if I know all this knowledge and if I know all of this, it must be somewhere in there. Instead of saying, like, take 10 steps back and say, what are the common truths in all of these, like, super minutia, granular facts and super nerdy things? How do you funnel that down into very common, actionable things? So much of that knowledge is like, okay, you have all of this data. You've read so many research papers and all this stuff. What is an actual takeaway? Because if it's not, you're just stroking your own ego instead of getting in your body.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, it sounds super simple. Please eat. Please sleep. It's actually a lot harder than you might think, because we assume that it can't be that simple. And so we don't pay attention to it. But then you actually get in there and you're like, oh, I have to unpack years of diet culture. I have to unpack years of not being able to sit still and do nothing, because if I'm not productive, I have no worth. And it's like, then you go to the deep underpinnings of all of these simple things. And it's like, I promise you, when I'm telling you this, one, it has all this data behind it. And then it also has deeper belief systems underneath it that we have to unpack. So something as simple as just eat is so much more going on.
So we've got just eat and rest, groundbreaking ideas. Yeah. What are maybe a couple other daily habits that women can start this week to make their next period less painful and way more manageable?
Yeah. First things first, track your caffeine and alcohol intake, because I, for one, am super loosey-goosey with it, because I'm just like, oh, I don't drink that much caffeine. But if you actually add it up, it's like, oh. Alcohol and caffeine play a much bigger role than you think when it comes to your hormones. So that's a very actionable piece. Number 2 is going to be daily movement, regardless of what it is. It doesn't have to be super intense. It can be a walk. It can be getting outside, whatever. I'd rather you move every day than, hit it super hard one time the week.
And then burn yourself out.
And then burn out. So gentle movement, whatever you can accomplish. The third thing, no one's going to like, and everyone's going to roll their eyes. I need you to take 15 minutes to do nothing. And that is not co-regulating. That's not hanging out with a pet. If you have to sit in your car because it's the only place, if you're a mom and that's the only place you can get some peace, sit in there for at least 15 minutes. Do not go on your phone. Do not multitask. You cannot do this while you're walking. I've had a client ask me that. Like, can I go for a walk without my phone? I said, no, sit still. Because when we think about how much stimulation we're getting every single day, 24/7, all this input, oh my gosh, it never ends. Because yes, it's the phone. It's also your coworker and your mom, and you need to think about the grocery and you Take 15 minutes, because yes, it'll help your cycle, but also for your general well-being. Because when we talk about things like subconscious belief systems, your narratives, the way that you are, the energy essentially that you are bringing to the function that is subconscious, you can't hear what that is if you are never shutting off the other inputs. Okay? Sit still, just for a little bit. And then lastly, something that will be incredibly helpful in the short range is going to be something like a magnesium spray for calming. Long range is going to be something like that Soothe herbal tincture. Some people will take it for 2 days and be like, it's not working. It is not a drug. It isn't. And when we talk about drugs versus herbs, drugs are like a sledgehammer. They are going to force an outcome immediately most of the time.
And you can deal with the aftermath later.
Yes, but they are incredibly forceful versus herbs are nourishing, they're slow moving, they're balancing. So it may take 2 or 3 months for it to work. And we in America don't like that because we want it to work in 15 minutes. But that is going to help. It's not going to help you in 3 months if you don't start taking it now, is the thing. So you might as well start taking it now.
Let's do a couple of community questions. I've got the first one in. I feel like a genuine psychopath 2 weeks out of the month. What's happening neurologically and hormonally, and what can help?
And that's so fair. You're not crazy.
And you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. Because I remember feeling that way. And like legit psychopath. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And especially when it's 2 weeks out of a 4-week month, that
like,
sucks.
Give me a break.
Yes. It's like, how am I supposed to operate? So like we talked about, this is most likely happening in their luteal phase. If I had to guess, that's where we tend to see a lot of the problems because we talk about the luteal phase energetically being, I'm telling people my truth. Your body's also telling on you. So this is where, because your stress resilience is lower, you're going to be hungrier, all of these things. It's basically the thinnest part energetically of your cycle where you are able to see clearly like what is really not supportive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And your body is basically going to report back to you and say, hey, you were not listening. And now I'm going to present all these symptoms to show you that you're not listening.
Yeah.
And so when you feel crazy, ragey, psychopathic, it is often because that progesterone that's supposed to be very calming, very cozy during this whole luteal phase, you're not able to produce it or not enough of it.
And that's because the cortisol is robbing your storage of it.
It's robbing so cortisol and pregnenolone, progesterone, share a common precursor. And so when you're super stressed, it's being diverted preferentially to cortisol.
Oh.
Yeah. And so you're not going to have enough to then create that progesterone. And that then has downstream effects on things like serotonin and GABA and all these neuromodulators. And so your whole body is basically this huge feedback loop. And when you don't have enough progesterone, your body does not feel safe. You're probably not sleeping enough because your sleep needs go up a little bit. Sleep 9 hours if you can. I know that sounds super luxurious. It's not. Making sure we are eating enough, making sure if you are supplementing with that magnesium, that could be incredibly helpful, particularly during this time because your emotional buffer is super thin during the luteal phase. And so if we're not doing those supportive things, you're going to tell on yourself basically. Again, not a moral failing, but you're getting a lot of feedback. And if you're getting it every single month for consistently 2 weeks, saying, hey, I'm serious. Like I really do need help. Please help me.
Next question. I've been on birth control for years to manage cramps, but now I'm dealing with fatigue, gut problems, low libido. What can I do?
And we've touched on different parts of these. So if you're only on birth control for period pain, I would advise you to consider going off of it, start building up your body and consider working off of that if it's not for its intended purpose. But what is happening, several birth controls can actually contribute to leaky gut, which is where those tight junctions in your intestinal lining start to open up. And that can allow certain particles out of your intestine that are not meant to go there. When we think about, like a coffee filter, coffee is supposed to come through. If you poke a hole in it, coffee grounds are going to come through. They're not meant to make it out. And that can contribute to widespread inflammation, which is going to make you feel like crap, just as a general rule. So we have that piece, that leaky gut piece, that can lead to other gut issues because it's starting to degrade the health of your gut. That can then allow things like gut dysbiosis to take place, where not so great bacteria and yeast are overgrowing. That can cause issues with your digestion, with your overall energy. And so you're going to feel that fatigue because you're very inflamed. You're also probably not digesting food very well. On top of, behaviorally, if you're not sleeping enough or not eating enough, that can also contribute. And then on that low libido piece, because that is such a real thing and it can feel incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
One, it could be interacting with your thyroid, because that is something I got to learn and have a front row seat to with thyroid health. gut, thyroid, and hormone health often talk to each other. They share a lot of very similar signaling to the brain. And so if your gut and hormones are off, your thyroid might also be off. That can be contributing to weight gain, can be contributing to low libido. Additionally, with being on hormonal birth control for so long, that can be suppressing your testosterone as well. Testosterone directly increases your libido. So all of those different pieces can be at play. But at the end of the day, if you are open to considering going off of it and rebuilding your body, rebuilding your cycle, that ultimately is, the gold standard to live in alignment with where your body's supposed to be.
So as we wrap up, what is one parting message that you would want to give to the women, just, woman to woman, that are seeking relief? Like, is there a next step? Is there a message that obviously next step, if you want more information, please get in touch with her, Chrysalis Wellness in DFW. But is there a message that you wanted to leave our community with?
I think the best thing I can say is, one, to meet yourself with compassionate curiosity instead of hostility. When you are in an open dialogue with your body, that is where real change is going to happen. But also open your heart. This is going to sound so cheesy. Open your heart to the possibility that your body does not have to feel this way, that you do not always have to suffer. And I know you're very closed off. I know you're very protected because you're so strong. You're so independent because you refuse to be disappointed, especially by your own body. Crack it open, let a little light in, and say, you are actually allowed to feel okay. That is not too tall an order. That is not unattainable. You are allowed to feel great and then live your life from that place. That's allowed. And it's normal. That's the new normal. That's where we're going.
I love that. Where can the girls find you on social and online?
Yeah. So I am on Instagram and TikTok, chrysalis.wellness, under Catie Perkins. And I also have my own podcast called It's Just Stress. That is my current favorite. That's my little baby because, as you can tell, I like to yap long form.
You're so good.
Thank you.
I listened to her podcast and I was like, I cannot wait to have her on because she'll just go on a topic and it's like something super niche or something really broad. And she'll just give you the science, give you the context, give you the compassion and understanding. It really is like having someone that's just so educated on a topic break it down for you in a way that you can actually manage and digest it. So definitely check out her podcast. Seriously.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is where you guys can find me. And I love talking about this stuff, obviously.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by and having a chat with me, woman to woman.
Thank you.